Welcome everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to this week's episode of the hoscale newsletter recaps for October 28th, 2024. Before we go ahead and jump right into it, as always do me a favor, subscribe if you're new, or if you find yourself coming back anyways. Just helps out the channel so that one day I can make a couple dollars off of it. Really appreciate it. And if you enjoy the video, do me a favor, like it, drop me a comment, anything you see interesting in here. But we're going to go ahead and start off today with Broadway Limited imports. So as you can see here behind me while I've been talking there, we have the announcement for the 2025 Broadway Limited Conductors Club locomotive. That's an ES44AC in both HO and N scales here. The big thing, the price is pretty cheap here. So for HO scale with sound, it's coming in at 200 bucks, and without sound, it's 130. So that's obviously a pretty big discount. Normally these locomotives are around 300 bucks, but of course they are only for the Conductors Club members, which is a $30 per year fee. So the order deadline is May 16th, 2025, so there's still a chance if you wanted to sign up for Conductors Club. I myself am not a member. I'm not a huge Broadway Limited fan. And the big thing here, ScaleTrains is already doing pretty much all of these schemes as well. The only one that they are not doing is UP7400 here, and I'll show you some more detailed shots, but that's the breast cancer unit. I've only ever seen one of those come up for sale, and it was a custom one on eBay. So it's pretty cool to see a manufacturer going ahead and taking a look at that special unit. They do have two of the CSX heritage units there, the Western Maryland and the Georgia Railroad, as you can see here. And those two CPKC locomotives, one is an XKCS and one is an XCP. Those are the two very first locomotives painted in that paint scheme. And ScaleTrains is doing those two locomotives as well as all of the CSX paint schemes. So these look pretty good. I don't own any Broadway Limited ES44s. I've wanted to buy one. I wanted the Hapag-Lloyd unit for Canadian Pacific, the bright orange partnership, kind of like that Maersk unit I just did a review on, a partnership with a shipping company, because that one's just cool. It's super unique. Athearn's also releasing that locomotive soon as well, so maybe I'll pick up an Athearn ES44 to do some comparisons. Here's a little info on how to join the Conductors Club. Just showing there that you do get the exclusive locomotive, and it's a $30 fee. The locomotive for 2024 were the special run of the big boys, so those will be shipping in December, it looks like. And then the only other news from Broadway Limited, in a separate little blurb, I got that the SW7 or SW9 deadline is coming up soon. So I think I touched on that last week, but that's another locomotive deadline coming up from Broadway Limited. But that wraps up the news from BLI for this week. Let's go ahead and take a look over at ScaleTrains. All right, ScaleTrains is up next here. So starting off at the top, we have an N-scale SD40-2 announcement here. So again, not an N-scale guy, but I'll just show you quick those paint schemes, and here's a list of all of those. Pre-order by today, so if this video is coming up today, you better be quick. And then another pre-order in HO here for the 48-foot coil cars. So they got a ton of paint scheme variations. This has been on the newsletter for a couple weeks, so I don't want to bore you too much. Another look at those paint schemes here for you. And then of course here, they're running low on the new run of the Trinity 82-foot reefers with the logo icicles. I did a review on these and also compared them to the first run. Having a great time with them so far. So they are the non-sound versions because I still didn't trust the sound versions to roll freely because of the crazy amount of friction that I saw with people between the metal pickup for the sound and lights and the trucks themselves. Mine have been working out so far, so good news there. But if you were looking to pick one up, now's your chance. But moving on here, a Fox Valley Models release. So ScaleTrains did buy Fox Valley Models, so they now offer those products in their line. So it's a PCNF wood reefer here, which is pretty cool. I don't really model this air or anything. It's very early on. But very cool option. Lots of neat paint schemes. There's a quick look at them there staged on the track. scroll through a little bit if you're interested in pausing and looking at the history. And there's a quick look at the paint schemes there. And then next up here, we've got an exciting announcement. So both HO and N scale Tier 4 GEVOs are in stock. So I do have 3 CN versions on their way from Lombard Hobbies. So those should be in stock shortly. I'll be able to compare that with the first run of the Canadian National Heritage units. So I've got the EJ&E, the Illinois Central, and the Wisconsin Central on order. I do already have the BC Rail version. I didn't do a separate video on that. I'll just wait and compare it with this run. But something that I've already noticed from just these pictures going by is they do have the rust-colored wheels, which were not present on the first run. So that'll be the upgrade I expect to see. There's a list of those road names and paint schemes here. Then they've got the hypotypical release. I like the BNSF H1 version there, but it just looks a little funky, so I don't think I'll be picking that one up. The Canadian Pacific does look pretty nice, though. Kind of surprising that they haven't picked up ET44s in that scheme. They're pretty much sticking with ES44s. There's lists there, some of the features. You get your ground lights and number boards, of course. And a little blurb here about the road names. Lots are limited. Definitely jump on it earlier rather than later. And then another HO release here, the EMD SD45s. I didn't really consider these ones. I do like the Seaboard that we just saw went by and the Rio Grande. I'm becoming a Rio Grande fan as I wait for the SD40T-2s to come. So right there, that's the Rio Grande looks great. I really like the light package on the Rio Grande units with the gyro lights. So I'm excited for the pre-orders I have to come, but I don't know yet if I'll be picking up one of these. They look great. They'll complement nice with those SD45Xs if you can kind of make it work. They're not offered in the same schemes. There's no Southern Pacific here, but just another cool option. There's a list of those road names for you. And then we'll move down here, just billing update. Same as last time, the HO SD45s and the ET44s we just talked about, as well as those Fox Valley models reefers. And they will be in North Carolina on November 9th and 10th. Additionally, same weekend in Mexico. So you can catch them at those train shows. And that wraps up our ScaleTrains newsletter. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Athearn next. All right, welcome to the Athearn new release here for November. So starting off here, the SD70 ACEs. Of course, they got the lit number boards and truck lights. Very nice having. I did do a review on the Montana rail links that came out earlier this year. Just wanted to quickly look at some of those paint schemes here. Do have BNSF, of course, as well as the EMD demonstrator, pretty neat, and sort of their legendary liveries, the same thing that ScaleTrains calls hypotypical, the Santa Fe here in the war bonnet scheme. Looks pretty nice. Santa Fe, unfortunately, as you know, didn't make it around that long. Then we've got CSX in the YN3 scheme here, also legendary livery. Another CSX version, the modern version that did get applied to the ACEs, as well as North Shore Mining, which the newsletter notes is the first time that's ever been offered. So that's pretty cool. Then here is a list of those road name features if you're interested. But popping back over here to the announcements. Next, we got the 482 MT4, which looks pretty neat. So I wanted to take a look at some of those offerings as well here. So they've got the Skyline casing, which looks cool. So lots of Southern Pacific options there, as well as the gray. And then without that Skyline casing there as well. And they do have an offering of just an Athearn branded version. So we'll see if that sells well. Very curious. And there's a list of those features. I'll scroll back up here to the top because I went a little quick on these paint schemes. Southern Pacific does have some good ones. And heading back over to the newsletter here, a couple pieces of rolling stock. In the Genesis line, the 2600 air slide hopper, and then back down in the Athearn, we've just got the 4700 covered hopper and 60-foot box car. So Athearn recently rebranded a little bit ago, where it used to be Athearn Roundhouse, Athearn Ready to Roll, and then Athearn Genesis. Now their mid-tier is just called Athearn. So it's sort of situated here in that style. So it's weird to call things like by just the Athearn brand itself. So I'm not sure why they did that, but they've done it. And speaking of Athearn Roundhouse, we do have the F7A here, which is now DCC ready. And this drew my attention because of that Metra scheme. So here's a look at the offerings. As you can see, there's only one road number in Reading and Northern and Clinchfield. We've got two in both CSX and Boston and Maine up here. Only offered DCC ready again. Then here's a second set. So the Metra 308 is the Metra F7 that is currently at the IRM, the Illinois Railway Museum. So I've seen that one. So I might pick this one up, but I'm not super keen on the Athearn Roundhouse line just because I will have to add a decent amount of details to it just to make it a little more accurate. But it's still really cool, and I'm sure that they're offering that because they know that it's still preserved. So people are going to buy that one, like me. But moving on some here. They are doing, just like the MTs, the Athearn version here, and also a holiday ornament. So if you're interested, you get an F7 in the Athearn scheme. Here's a brief look at those features before we go ahead and hop back over to the newsletter. So back over here at the newsletter, just to round us out in the Athearn Roundhouse, we've got the 50-foot high cube plug door boxcars as well as that holiday ornament. So that's all for the newsletters for this week. Just a couple of items coming my way. I've already talked about the new ET44 from ScaleTrains. Then the Metra sets will be coming out soon from Rapido. Very excited for those. I'll probably pick up at least one ScaleTrains GP40, and I think I'm going to pre-order from Rapido two of those, probably the Illinois Central and the Canadian National X Illinois Central, just because I think that's pretty cool. And I'm also considering picking up a Rio Grande caboose from Rapido, the steel riveted caboose. That order deadline is over in November, so I got time to think about that. I don't think there's a sellout or anything. But that's all I've really got for updates in the community. Really hope you enjoyed today. A little bit of a shorter video, but that's okay. There's not always a ton going on every week, but it's nice to just recap and see what's new. We got some cool things today, so thank you for joining. Do me a favor, if you made it this far, subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed, drop me a comment if there's anything here that interests you, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.